Hello, listeners, and welcome to Privacy Chats with Rachel and John. This is a podcast for privacy professionals and enthusiasts alike. I'm John.
And I'm Rachel, and we are your... Sorry, this is my bad attempt at sound effects. Your hosts. In our last episode, we talked about scams in which gift cards get drained, resulting in recipients having cards that have no value because the money has already been spent. Womp, womp, womp.
Yes, and the here's the gift cards that I did for testing that, which I didn't have with me when we recorded that episode. But anyway, so for our listeners, if you haven't listened to that one, I highly recommend it. So go back and listen to that and then come and pick up again here.
Yeah, and in that episode, we made references to another type of scam that we didn't quite get into the weeds of. So let's dive into that one now.
So yeah, so what I wanted to do is talk about people getting tricked into buying gift cards and sending the gift cards or the numbers from the gift cards or pictures of the numbers of the gift cards to scammers.
It's a lot. I have a lot of questions. Let's start with the people getting tricked part of it, and how common this actually is, because I can't picture it happening to me, let alone how.
Yeah, unfortunately, it happens quite a lot. It's very lucrative business for scammers. Generally, we would get to the how would I prevent this question later on in our chat. But for this one, I actually want to start out with a very simple way of avoiding being scammed like this.
I love simple. That means accessible. What is it?
So it's very simple. So if you're ever asked to purchase a gift card as a payment for anything, it's a scam. It's that simple. If the IRS calls you, utility company, bail to get someone out of jail, your spouse, your mother, a favor that your boss is asking you, anything at all. If you're being asked to pay for something with a gift card, it's a scam. 100% guaranteed.
If that guidance is so simple, then, what are the circumstances that people still get scammed? Why is this not sticking?
So we talked a little bit about this in an episode that we did last year titled "How to Spot the Posers and Pretenders." And so generally these scams will start out with somebody reaching out to you pretending to be someone else. And a common one is someone calling you or contacting you, claiming that they're from the IRS. And they're going to say that you owe some back taxes. They're likely going to create a sense of urgency. They might say that law enforcement is on their way over. They're going to arrest you, or they might say that your assets are about to be seized. We're going to, seize your house or your car, or that your name is about to be published as a tax evader. Then they're going to provide some reason why the payment can't be made or why it needs to be made immediately, and some lame reason why you can't just write them a check or a credit card or something. Like even if you're falling for the scam and are willing to pay it with a legitimate means, they'll come up with some reason why you can't do that. They'll insist that you go to the store to buy gift cards and then send them the numbers. And they might even instruct you what to say when you go to the store to avoid, raising suspicion by cashiers who, in a lot of cases, have been trained to look out for people buying large quantities of gift cards that they're being scammed.
Yeah, and it's a good thing they are, because this is tricky, and that line we're drawing is, firm for a reason, I guess. But it reminds me of this time a couple months ago when essentially a family member was getting offers to fill out applications for schools. I believe it was in Canada. They were kind of healthcare adjacent schools, but the prize or the compensation for filling out those applications was, you guessed it, gift cards. So it itself, there's a legal gray area with all that. We don't have to get into it, but the gift card aspect is what really, triggered that red flag in my brain, and we all started talking about it and we explained why. And so I think a lot of those insights will come out from this episode as well, but it's very common for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, there's lots of different variations on these. There's another scam that often starts off with what sometimes appears to be an offer of tech support. And these will often get initiated by a pop-up that comes up in your computer saying that you have a virus and that you should click on a link and call a number.
Yeah.
So like that's one
I've
example.
seen plenty of those, and it like might sound suspicious now that we're talking about the like the pop-ups. They're not what they look like they are in the context that, especially us talking about it right now, but in reality, a lot of people need tech support, and that's maybe a really reasonable route to get it in some other people's minds, you know?
Yeah, they do, and most people aren't going to know the difference between a pop-up that's is generated by like their antivirus software on their own
Yeah.
computer, or a pop-up that's just was spawned by a website that they're visiting. So this particular scam can play out in lots of different ways. Really, they're just trying to they're casting a line and trying to get a hook, and then they'll take it whatever way that they need to. One approach that I've seen on there's a YouTube channel that I like. It's called the Scammer Payback YouTube channel. But I've seen one on there where a scammer will uh, trick you into providing the scammer with remote access to your computer. And they'll say that they're, helping you to cancel a service or issue you a refund. You should never ever allow anyone else to control your computer unless have already have an established relationship with them. Um, but anyway, in this case, they're going to make you think that they're helping you and saving you money. And then in this particular one that I'm talking about, during the process, they'll make it look as if you paid them they've paid you too much money. And
Hmm.
they might even kind of, do it in such a way that it makes it seem as if you made an error, not that they made an error. And then they'll even show you like a balance from your bank indicating that your balance is much higher than it should be, supporting this claim that they paid you too much. So then they're going to turn the tables, telling you that, they're going to get in trouble for mistakenly giving you too much money, or, you're in trouble because you know, you hit the wrong button to draw too much money or something.
Yeah.
They're going to get fired or something. But ultimately, this is going to leave the victim thinking that the victim has their money, and that you're doing the right thing by returning it to them. So, and
Hmm.
then they're going to have some other crazy reason why the transaction can't just be reversed through the bank. And, they're going to start off on this thing that they need you to go to your bank, take out some money, then go to the store and buy gift cards.
Yeah, no, I mean the part that where the scammer is claiming that they're at risk of being fired is really I mean these are scams, so they're all disappointing, of course, but it's really
Yeah.
taking advantage of the victim's emotions, right? The victim's made to feel responsible for the situation, and it's all quite elaborate in that way. They're pulling at the most likely ways to get you engaged.
Yeah, it is, and that's the essence of it. They're trying to get you to engage with them, and once the hook is set and you believe it, you're probably just going to kind of go along with the rest of it.
Mm,
And the reality is that the technology between these scams are really quite simple. The hardest part is getting people to buy into the premise of the scam that I'm really from Microsoft, or I am from the IRS, or whatever
yeah,
whatever they
and I
pretend.
mean, how is that? You mentioned the bank statements, but how is this convincing process usually achieved? It might vary from person to person on what you could believe, right?
Yeah, I mean, really and we talked about this before, and you mentioned it a minute ago, that they're trying to manipulate your emotions, in some way. So
Yeah, and saying you could totally feel sympathy of someone losing their job, and you might feel sense of responsibility to either, correct what's unjust because you're a good person, but that could also leave you sending money to people you don't owe, right?
yeah, exactly. And on top of that, they're generally going to create a sense of urgency around it. I've even heard of scams where people are tricked into believing that they're helping with an FBI investigation. Don't fall for it. The FBI doesn't write you to random people to ask for help with their investigations. That's not how that works. But if you believe that you're helping the FBI, this then allows the scammer, to trick their victim into secrecy, so they're not going to tell other people that
Ooh,
they're being scammed,
you're
and
right.
urgency because they want to get this thing done quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the secrecy is huge, and I mean, it's funny because hearing about these stories as they happen to, other people as we do our research, like it's hard to put yourself in the shoes of the person, but like in reality, if I do, it must be so upsetting to know I was trying to do the right thing, that
Yeah,
especially if it's a law enforcement,
right.
individual, it's embarrassing.
Agreed. I think that that's embarrassing is the best way to put it, and shame or whatever. Particularly if people have taken a substantial loss and they'll see
Mm.
those as their assets. They're not just theirs; they're their families also. And, you know, and I suspect that some people are so embarrassed by falling for these things that they don't report it,
Yeah.
and they don't let other people close to them know about it. So they're kind of alone with the whole thing. I did come across a comment as I was doing research for this episode on the scammer payback YouTube channel. And someone was saying, and this is a quote from them, it said, I was scammed on my 65th birthday quite a few years ago. Your site is so healing from that trauma. I get great satisfaction when you slam them. Thank you for so much for all you do.
You've mentioned the scammer payback channel a couple times. I'm curious to know what more it's about. It sounds effective.
Yeah, it's a channel that intentionally calls these numbers that scammers are putting out there to lure victims in. The guy on this particular one is goes by the handle of Pierogi, and he just calls and pretends to be an unsuspecting, willing victim. Like sometimes he pretends to be an elderly woman, for example.
Well, I love it so far. What the purpose of revealing scams?
Well, there's a few things. One, I think it's entertaining. Like, you know, I've watched some of them just to see how these things play out. So there's entertainment. I think it also creates awareness about these types of scams. Like, I've learned a lot about them, but
Mhm.
I'm kind of in the cybersecurity privacy industry. You know, hopefully other people,
So
you
not
know, have
much,
become
maybe
aware.
surprises you, but to have that validation of how it happens in the
Yeah,
wild without it happening to you is great.
yeah, agreed. But also, like this, when he does this, it wastes time for the scammers. Like sometimes he'll keep them
Ah,
engaged for hours, and every hour that they're on the phone with him, that's an hour that they're not spent victimizing other people. So
yeah.
he's protecting people in that way. But he also goes a step farther because he does seem to be, you know, quite a you know, aficionado with computers and stuff like that. And he often tries to hack them back by gaining access to their computers and then downloading their files and exposing their scam.
Scammers get scammed. I like it. I mean, and hence the guy in the comments, the one on his 65th birthday, and everyone else
Yeah.
probably for thanking him too. It sounds very Robin Hood in a super metaphorical way.
Yeah, agreed. And there are, you know, he's not alone. There's a lot of people out there doing the same kind of thing. Another one that I've enjoyed watching is a guy. He goes by the name Jim Browning, but that's not his real name. He operates a YouTube channel called Tech Support Scams, and he's actually done some great work to identify and expose scammers and the call centers. Like it's a whole business that operates in some of these places. I shouldn't call it the countries, but and he's had success with shutting them down. So
Yeah,
he's done some great work.
that's super cool. It's something we'll have to plug as a little friendly journey for our listeners to take on. I'm sure
Yeah.
there are plenty more scams out there.
There are. I got another great example from it was in a I was in a LinkedIn chat with somebody. Her name is Chloe Vio. Chloe is a cybersecurity GRC lead at Meta, where both you and I work. She's shared a story with me.
Yes,
So
shout out Chloe. Let's hear it.
yeah. So I'm going to offer some of this as a quote. So she said that my boyfriend's grandmother recently received a scam call where they cloned my boyfriend's voice and asked for money to be loaded onto a Visa gift card to help out with car trouble. So she said that she and her boyfriend were traveling at the time. It's not clear to me if the scammers knew that they were traveling and, you know, hence we were having car
Yeah,
trouble,
yeah.
or the timing was just a coincidence. So I'm not
Well,
sure if,
it's creepy either way. Like we're seeing
yeah.
the real life example of I think, what a lot of warnings about generative AI are popping up about, right, in practice.
Yeah, it's true. So, anyway, she went on to say that luckily, a week prior, they had come up with a family password or passcode to help verify identity. And when the scammer didn't know the family password, despite obvious clues, his grandmother hung up.
That is incredibly like convenient timing, really, really smart on the family's behalf. So grandma one, scammer zero.
Yeah, it was awesome. I love that. So go grandma. So Chloe's expert cybersecurity advice, because she's a cybersecurity expert, is that she highly recommends that people establish some sort of a secret password or passphrase with their family members, you know, or the people that are close to them, so that this type of scam just can't work.
Yeah, that's, I mean, awesome advice. And that scam that was fortunately foiled by grandma, has that
Yeah.
overlap between the gift card scams that we're talking about now and earlier, more nefarious uses of AI that we've, of course, talked about in the past, we'll continue to see.
Yeah, I mean, sadly, this stuff is all around us, so they're going to use all of the tricks and methodologies and technologies that are available to them. In my family, we've had a long-standing password, and I realized when I was reading this from Chloe that we haven't talked about it for a while, so it's probably time for us to do a refresher on it. I
Oh
think
yeah,
everyone
yeah,
will.
same here with us. But what's your password, John?
Nice try, Rachel. Sorry, gonna keep that one to myself.
So, well, is the telltale sign of a scam then that they're asking you to pay with a gift card? Is that it? Just pay using a gift card?
So, not completely. And I will reiterate that if you're ever asked to pay for anything with a gift card, it's definitely a scam. So yes, if somebody's asking you to pay for something with a gift card, it is a scam. Walk away.
Mhm.
But there are other scams that are happy to take your credit card or some other form of payment. Um, and these are companies that are actually selling you some form of tech support or a subscription or what seems to be a subscription to a service or
Mhm.
something. But in reality, there's nothing of substance to what you're purchasing. So, technically, if you were in court, they might not hold up as an actual scam because they'd say, well, yeah, we sold them a subscription just because there was nothing there. But I'm going to call them scams.
Yeah.
They're just hoping to get some money from you and hope that you don't complain to your credit card company or
Yeah.
whoever.
Which I mean, in my limited experience with these things, like my credit card company's been pretty good about,
Mhm.
reversing or not necessarily reimbursing, but stopping that transaction within a certain period of time.
Which, and just to interject this, that actually is really one of the main reasons why they're trying to use gift cards because gift cards can't be reversed. It's not a controlled form of payment in the same way that credit cards are. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. But we're a little bit outside of the realm of gift cards, so it's related.
yeah. So yeah, let's get back on track.
So
Yeah,
once someone's been tricked into sending these, say numbers of gift
yeah.
card, what actually happens next? Do the scammers then just use it to go on a shopping spree at like Target or wherever they can redeem it?
Right. Well, shopping sprees at Target sound awesome, but ultimately for scammers, I think their ultimate goal is to turn these back into cash. They
But
don't want the shopping spree.
yeah, how easy is that?
So in theory, it shouldn't be easy at all. At least it shouldn't be easy. But we did talk in our last episode that there was some references to the state of New Jersey that was actually written on some of these gift cards. The
Mm-hmm.
state of New Jersey requires that they can be cashed out. But like even in those cases, I suspect that there's some hoops that you have to go through,
Mm-hmm.
even in places where they have to turn them into cash, that scammers might want to avoid. So they're not going to say, "Hey, I'm in New Jersey, give me cash for this." There might be forms that you have to fill out, show ID, stuff like that.
Yeah, so it might be difficult, but not impossible. I mean, do you know how they do that?
Well, so that's actually the main question that I wanted to answer in the research that I was doing. That was what got me thinking about doing this episode in the first place, is my
Mhm.
own curiosity about it. And I figured, well, let me find the answer to it and then share it with our listeners.
Yeah.
So I started by looking to see what regular people are out there saying. So I turned to Reddit. I found a Reddit thread, and it was titled, "How do scammers extract money from gift cards they get? And how is it that companies can't stop them?" That was the name of the Reddit thread.
Yeah. Well, what wisdom did people tend to offer in that thread?
So there were some interesting perspectives, and I've kind of here's a bulleted list of things that I found in some of the conversations. So one
Mhm.
responder said that they create fake apps on Google Play or in the iTunes store, and then use the gift cards to make purchases, which effectively launders the gift cards back into a legitimate
Oh,
money in their bank accounts.
interesting. Okay, so it's like there's another layer to this where you have to establish that receiving end.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the whole mechanism of money laundering, really.
Mhm.
Another responder said that they sometimes go to physical stores, they'll buy products and then resell them on Marketplace or eBay or places like that. So that's going back to, yes, actually doing a
Yeah.
shopping spree and
Less
then selling the
liquid,
things.
but better than nothing, I guess.
Yeah. Another person said that they they can sell the gift cards to someone else for cheaper than the value of the gift card.
Hmm.
Um, and evidently, that's fairly common in online marketplaces. I've never thought to try and buy a gift card in a marketplace.
Hmm.
But the scammer in this case, they're going to take a bit of a loss because they're selling it for a lower value. But in the end, they're ending up with cash that didn't cost them anything more than a little bit of time to acquire. So
Yeah. Yeah, and perhaps there are other, more effective routes for that. So I question that as being the default method.
we're
Number one sounds the most convincing to me so far, but any
So
others?
far, yeah, there was an interesting, much longer response from a person operating under the handle Bradland, and he wrote that, and some of this is a quote, that they either resell the cards at a discount or buy expensive products to resell. So those are things we already talked about. He said that iPad Pros are a common option,
Mm,
and his comment was it doesn't matter much if they lose 20 to 30% of the face value of the card. Every cent that they sell it for it's all profit.
that's true.
Right. Um, so, he kind of goes on. I'm going to cut it off with what he had said, but
Mhm.
like it's ultimately, yeah, there was ways that they can do that. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
which
I'll
it
move
helps
on.
to
There
avoid
was,
legal action and getting detected or whatever. It's probably multiple steps that make sense as a whole operation, but I maybe
yeah,
wouldn't recommend just because our listeners hear this that they go try to do some gift
right.
card scamming. We're on
Don't
the
do
receiving
it.
end here. Yeah, no scamming, guys.
We're not here to teach you how to scam people. So one other one that I thought was really interesting was one responder in this Reddit thread posted that some gift cards can be used to buy Bitcoins, and I didn't realize that.
Oh,
So once you've bought a Bitcoin, if you can buy it with a gift card, you can sell Bitcoin for money then.
yeah,
And then Bitcoin, like its claim to fame, is not traceable. So once you've got
yeah.
the
It's
Bitcoin,
whole
the
value add
origin, yeah,
outside of being a diversified asset or whatever, but the lack of traceability is makes it prime for scam mechanism, of course. So it sounds like there's some viable options for making cash out of this, but did you find anything maybe outside of Reddit that I'm not going to suggest has more verification? Reddit often has just people that have had these
yeah.
situations and or the expertise that are kind enough to offer it up, but like what else did you find outside of it?
So I found an interesting article that was published in U.S. News and World Reports in July of this last year, so about 6 months ago. It was titled Three Sites That Pay Cash for Unused Gift Cards."
Hmm.
Um, and I don't want to name the sites that they mentioned because I really don't know if these are reputable, and I don't want to seem as if I'm endorsing them. Like, hey, if you've got
Yeah.
unused gift cards at home, go here.
Yeah.
But clearly, there are sites that offer a service where gift cards with unused balances can be sold for cash.
I've certainly heard of them. I've never engaged them myself because again, the spidey senses were like, I don't
Yeah,
I don't love this. There's a lack of verification for me, right? And usually gift cards are for places that I'd like to make transactions in at some point, in a given year. So no need
yeah.
to. But I assume they're like to operate these websites, they're looking for a fee or something in it for them to process this exchange.
Yeah, for the three that they had listed in that U.S. News and World Reports article, it looked like the going rate was around 8 to 10% of the card's value. So, but which isn't bad if you're trying to offload a gift card that you're not going to use.
Yeah. I mean, so scammers could be using sites like this, do you think, to launder their stolen gift cards?
So I'm going to say that theoretically they could, but I don't have any solid evidence to say that that's what's happening. So I don't want to say it is. So I'll say theoretically yes.
Mhm.
It would be possible for sites like this to vet their customers in such a way that it would be difficult for scammers to operate in the long term. So I don't know if that's what they're using.
Yeah.
So.
Hence your hesitation to endorse them.
Yeah, for sure. I just don't understand enough about that part of the industry.
Mhm.
Um, but like we already heard, sometimes scammers, they're actually I might have skipped over this, but so this was one of the points that guy Bradland was talking
Yeah,
about.
from Reddit.
Um, yeah, from the Reddit thread. So he had mentioned in something what he was saying about that scammers will, they'll throw a few bucks to somebody from a vulnerable population and say, "Hey, here's a few bucks. Can you go and do this thing for me?" So
Hmm.
like that might be, for example, go to the store and buy something, and then I'll, give you a cut of whatever it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens. So they'll
To
they'll
not get
use people
traced,
from vulnerable
presumably.
populations to funnel money through them. They'll pay them a portion of the proceeds and then keep the rest.
Mm.
And so that could be happening here with like even with these services that are, we can turn gift cards into cash.
Hmm.
And then like if that's happening, if law enforcement ever gets involved, they're just going to find this poor proxy vulnerable person who was taken advantage of, and
Yeah.
they actually might even get in trouble while the real scammer runs free.
Yeah. It's just they're there to break the traceability element to it, right? Or and even
Yeah,
just to be the fall guy, I guess, if there is they are caught.
right. And they're, people in vulnerable populations are usually willing to do something for like they need money for food and stuff.
Yeah,
So yeah.
for sure. Um, so I think we've identified ways that people get tricked into sending gift cards to scammers, and then how the scammers can turn these back into cold hard cash. What are your recommendations to avoiding these scams?
So I'll go back to my previous warning. If anyone is asking you to pay for anything with a gift card, it's a scam. Don't
That's
do
a
it.
firm line. What if it's, my
No, stop. I'm going to stop you there, Rachel. We could all think of some legitimate outlier case of like, oh, it could be real or
but
something.
certainly there's a couple of
Don't,
scenarios.
no, no, no. Don't fall into that trap. If you find some legitimate reason, like tell that person that they're doing it wrong and you don't want to be any part of it. It's likely to be a scam. Just
Yeah.
run away.
Even if it's my mom, who
Run
I
away.
trust so
No,
much.
no. You can get a new
Get
mom.
a new
Don't,
mom.
don't, don't.
Okay, okay. Any other advice?
So overall, in general, social engineering scams, which this is falls into that family of scams,
Mm,
have the following attributes. It's something that's unexpected. It's a call, a text, an email, something that's coming out of the blue. You weren't expecting this contact to come to you. It's generally going to have a sense of urgency.
mm,
I'm in trouble. Your package isn't going to be delivered. You have a virus on your computer. Your house is on fire. Your some warranty is expired. Whatever. They're
yeah.
going to create some sort of sense of urgency, and it's going to ask you to do something.
Take
Click on a
action, yeah.
link, call a number, answer the phone. So look out for those three things. If it's unexpected, sense of urgency, asking you to do something, you should have your all of your red flags should be up.
Just to, ignore them, presumably, right? Like that's your if they want us
Yeah,
to take action, we do the opposite. We take no action.
just but yeah, just ignore them. Like, yeah, don't. I mean, I have had fun with them and engaged a little bit, but I'd like to think that I know what I'm doing. So
Yeah.
no, my advice is don't. And you don't like we'll get into a whole other thing about, warming up numbers and stuff like that.
Yeah, next episode for
It's
sure.
that's a different thing. So just ignore them. Yeah.
Yeah. What if someone's like in trouble, which is a good example of place of vulnerability, or maybe you've expected a package of sorts and you're getting,
Yeah.
phone calls, texts about that, a reason to respond to validate something. What do you do?
So I mean, yeah, that's a really good example because like in the example that Chloe offered, that the grandmother received a call saying that somebody's in trouble, her grandson was in trouble. She's not just going to say, "I'm just going to ignore that,"
Mm,
and hang up. Like, so my advice is that you should independently reach out to the sender of this communication separately. Don't click on a link or use a phone number that's in the text or whatever that you got. Independently reach out to them. So if in this case, like Chloe's grandmother receives a call that her grandson needs help, just
mhm.
hang up and call the grandson. Like,
Yeah.
hey, are you okay? I
Start
just somebody
your own connection through
your own
a
connection.
medium that you're used to communicating with that person or party in.
Exactly the same thing. Like if Amazon has something to tell you, that would happen through your Amazon app, and that's a form of communication that you already have established with Amazon. Is you open up your Amazon app and you do stuff through that.
Yeah.
If the post office can't deliver a package to you, they're going to leave a note on your door. That's just how the
Hmm.
post office works. Or they're simply just going to send it back to where it came from. This post office doesn't go through a lot of hoops to try and get something to you. They try, and if it doesn't work, it just goes back to the
And
sender.
it'll be there
Um,
for you to figure out. Yeah.
right. Yeah. So reach out to the person that sent it to you and say, hey, the package went back to you. Start try again. So I don't know.
Yeah.
If you get a pop up on your computer that says you have a virus, just close the pop up and run your antivirus application. Do your own independent analysis to see if you have a virus. If your bank texts you that someone is breaking into your account, call your bank yourself. You can look at like pull out the card from your wallet and there's a phone number right on the back of it.
That's
Use that
dedicated to
number.
do this, right? To
Right. But you should just always start out with being skeptical. Like something's wrong here. I shouldn't just believe that, my grandson has car trouble that I should put money on this gift card.
yeah.
You need verify it. Do your own independent research.
100%. And I think the bank one is a really good example where we were talking about vulnerable populations, like older folks, grandparents, great grandparents, where
Yeah.
they're not born in the generation where your bank is, trying to communicate with you, which does happen digitally now, but perhaps not in the form of text. And it could be, an email verification for a particular activity, not
Yeah.
necessarily, hey, we found a fraudster, like come and, log in through this link and help us, catch him,
Right.
whatever the lie is being spread with. But again, from an unknown eye, it is maybe very confusing and complicated for folks. So,
Yeah, agreed. And I get that. And some, you have to like, and if you've got the right protection set up in your accounts, like if you're using two-factor authentication, the chances that somebody's actually
oh
breaking
yeah.
into your account with two-factor authentication is so low
Hmm.
that it's not happening. But and don't ignore it. Contact your financial institution. Say, hey, I got this message that something's going on. Is it like, is everything okay?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and they're thankfully dedicating resources to identifying scams and not necessarily working around them per se, but taking the measures to provide phone numbers where customers can call to know they're
Right.
talking to a verified representative, right? So we have that on our side at least. But yes, this is a good reminder this episode for for me to set up those passwords with my family members, little code words, the
Yeah.
secret, this is legit word. I'll start that back up in our in our conversations. So thanks for
Yeah.
that. And thanks to Chloe for that awesome story. I mean, it's getting to
Yeah,
all the
perfectly
points we want
aligns
to
with
touch
what we're
on
talking
here.
about here. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was it was good. It was good timing.
Well, let's be careful out there. Do you have one last thing to say to our viewers before we take off?
Well, yes, like we always say. So please know that the information shared throughout this episode is that of our own, and it's in no way affiliated with our employers or any other organizations. These episodes are produced on our own time and are based on our own research and professional opinions.
Nice job, John. And thanks to everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.